Give it to her. Yes.
I was going to search, but it didn't happen.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Bummer.
Hello.
All right. Welcome to Mars versus Venus. Have you guys ever wondered what the other sex is like? Tonight you're gonna find out. Unless you already know. Dr. Trey's gonna come out. He has a lot of information. It's like 3 hours long. Are you guys prepared for that? Just kidding. He'll be done quick tonight. We won't be here for that long, but enjoy. The refreshments are back there, and just have a little fun tonight. That's what it's meant for.
All right, you guys ready for this? So I cannot tell you how excited I was when I got this topic, right? Because we do so many different health talks in this office, and they're usually like based on some pretty heavy stuff, right? Nutrition and diet and exercise and all this stuff. So to go through this topic is going to be so fun. And I was told I was going to do it with Dr. Josh, so I was all excited to do it with Dr. Josh, and then everyone knows what happened with Dr. Josh, right? So then I was told I was going to do it with Dr. Osborne, and then I get to do all by myself. So I've been diving into this subject, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to try to do tonight. As I was looking at all this information, I'm like, what I'm really trying to do is show you guys how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Like, it is so crazy, the male-female differences, but it's really interesting tonight. What I hope you guys get out tonight is how we have a lot of major differences between women and women. We're more alike than we are different, but the differences fit each other like Legos. It's really, really cool. So tonight what I want you to do is sit back, relax, just take in this information. The idea tonight is that the stuff I give you is going to help your life be better. It's going to help you understand men, it's going to help you understand women. We're going to talk about how we're different and how we're alike and everything. So before we do that, let me jump in. Let's talk about our mission real quick. Everyone knows this office is about helping people. And at the end of this, I'll be asking you who should have been here. Because the more you tag into these things, the more you tag into this group, the more synergy we create, the more people get healthier. I did the doctor's report the other night. One thing I said was, we save lives not by pulling people out of swimming pools or out of fires. We save lives by getting people into classes like this. We teach them how to be healthy. We turn your health around now. Later in life, you don't have any health problems. That's our main goal in this office. Dr. Osborne has put together an amazing team. I found that slide on there, and I know Dr. Osborne would agree. I hope you guys know every time before we come out and start adjusting people, we go into that room, we regroup, and we pray for each and every one of you. And that's what we look like inside that room before we come out. And I thought for exactly what we look like before we walk out, because we take this job very, very serious on what we're doing and changing lives and helping people. So are you ready to dive into this? This is the fasten your seatbelt. Okay, because it's going to be kind of fun and crazy, some of the stuff we're going to talk about. Let me start. I have gone through so many different literatures. I'll try to tell you guys the books and stuff and the articles I got from it. So if you want to go read on them, it's really interesting. The first one is from I wanted to go through this, it's crazy. This was called For Men Only. They also created a series called For Women Only. These are some therapists. And basically what they did, it's a couple, husband and wife, and they did surveys. Like they surveyed thousands and thousands and thousands of women to create a series called For Women Only. And it was such a huge success that they went out and did a bunch of men's surveys. And they did it for women only, where they talk about what women and men say in these surveys. And this one I thought was really riveting. It says, how often do you think about the relationship? How often do people think about the relationship? The relationship you're in, how often is it on your mind? So 7 out of 10 women said that they think of the relationship occasional to nearly always. I thought, well, that's a widespread, right? And right away I read that. I thought, well, that's crazy. 70% said occasional. As my male brain, watch this, said occasional. That's like not very often, right? All the way up to what? Nearly always. Listen to this. Less than 20% of them, women, said they only think of it when things were difficult. And 10% said they never really ever thought of it. So women always think of it, but I still bother me occasional. So if you keep reading it, it said, men, when asked the same question, said they think too, they think of it occasional. The numbers were kind of similar, but they really got down to it when they asked men to define occasional. And I thought, oh, I'm really smart. I thought the same thing that researchers thought, right? They said, what's occasional to men? Ready for this? Here's what men defined as occasional. Men said, yeah, I think of the relationship occasional, like birthdays, anniversaries, and when things go bad. And I thought, that's about right. For me, that's occasional. That's probably about right. All right? Women said, you ready for this? They said, define occasional. You know what women said? They said, occasional for us is several times a week. Which is mind-blowing, right? It's such a difference in the definition of what occasional is, okay? 80% of women, 4 out of 5, report that sometimes they feel insecure about their relationships. And women under the age of 45 reports that it jumps to 91% feel insecure about their relationship. That's a lot. Women with children in junior high or lower, they said it was universal. Almost 100% of them felt insecure about their relationships. Men, on the other hand, reported that they don't worry about their relationships. Almost 95% of men said we don't worry about it. 95% of men said there's nothing to worry about. Are we all on different waves? Yeah. 100% on different waves, right? I hope what I'm getting to you is you guys start getting this, you'll understand a little bit of the Rubik's Cube. I got a ton of good stuff coming. Where you understand like how we think differently and why we do. Okay? Women said when the relationship is at odds, quote, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Okay? Men again reported that. It's nothing to worry about. Women have an unbelievable radar for unspoken communication. We'll talk about that in the middle. I'm going to throw these away and go to my slides in a second, but I want to share these notes really quick because I thought they were so important and they didn't get on my slides. Women reported there's a magic bullet for fights. There's a magic bullet. When I read this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is me to a T. Women said there's a magic bullet. And what they said is 95% of women say that they feel that this eliminates the insecurity. 86% said they could give space if a man would only do this. And that is, men tend to run to their cave. We'll talk about why physiologically and neurologically they do that. Men tend to run to their cage to replenish and regroup. And women said, in the minute of a fight, the worst thing a man can do is what, women? Leave. It's the worst thing. So they talk about women's number one thing is they're always insecure about relationships. And we'll talk hopefully a little about why that is. Okay? There's a reason for that, by the way. There's a good reason. Most scientists have figured out why we think that occurs. They're insecure. And the worst thing the man can do is what? Leave. But the number one thing the males want to do is what? Leave. Right? So women said this across the board. Almost 90% of them said, if the man said this to them, I am really upset right now, but we are okay. And I will be back. And almost 90% of women said, if he said that, I'm okay. I will give him time to go away. It's the moment when they leave and don't say that. Eye-opening. I've done that in relationships, get into the argument, and I bolt. It's just a natural reflex. I take off. But that common alone said, women said, I feel good. Here's the trick, though. You guys ready for this? The trick is the man has to come back to the relationship. That's where I was reading that. That's when my eyes started twitching. Wait, what? I have to actually come back? I thought I got clear and got out of it, right? So women said, as long as he comes back. Now listen to this. Almost all the women said, hey, if he said, we're okay, reassures me, and he leaves, I'll give him time. As long as he does what? As long as he comes back. And they said one of the worst things a man can do is make a woman have to bring the topic back up. So that's the magic bullet. In those moments, men can leave, but they've got to come back. They've got to reinitiate that conversation on their own and show them that they're interested. And most women report that's great. Now, in a minute, I'll talk more about neurology, but men will go to their cave time. By the way, cave time for a man is they need a place to hide, okay? That turns out to be television. It talks about driving in a car, which is weird because sometimes on a busy day I'm thinking, man, you know what the best thing to do is if I just got in the car and drove to LA right now, or maybe Utah, right? I'm driving to New York right now. It's great, right? Like just, and I think, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find a place in the cave to just regroup, right? Shopping. I had one woman on a video I was watching on YouTube. She said their relationship was pretty good, but she said she started noticing her husband got off work at 5, but he didn't show up until 6:30. And so she started calling, and she says, I was really, concerned, right? She was worried about the relationship. Shocking, most women say they are. She couldn't figure out what it was. Then she started finding out, you know what he was doing? He would leave work, and he'd swing by the store and spend about an hour or so just walking and shopping. He was regrouping, right? Like in his head, he's regrouping. I'll show you the physiology of that in a few minutes. In the old days, you know how men used to do it? Anybody ever seen the newspaper up like that? That was how the old days did it. Now we have TV, we've got sports, okay, all kinds of good stuff. I love this question they asked women. They said, what's the number one thing that bothers you, or the number one thing you could change about your brain? 90+% of women said, if I could get the voices to stop. If I could get the voices to stop. And I'll show you in a minute what that means. Because all the men are here thinking, what are you talking about? But every woman will tell you their thoughts are crazy. I had my son read a book called Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. We'll get to that in a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. I'm sitting on a ski lift, and my girlfriend's here. And my son is here, and we're on the ski lift, and we're going up, and my son leans over and he goes, Dad, isn't that crazy that they don't have an empty box? And I go, that is crazy, isn't it? And we sit there for a minute, and my girlfriend goes, yeah. She goes, what are you guys thinking of? I go, nothing. I was just looking at the pine tree. And I looked at my son and go, what are you thinking about? And he goes, nothing. And then I looked at him and I go, watch this. I go, well, what were you thinking of? And she goes, I was thinking it's 9:30 right now, and my kids are skiing down on the hill, and I was worried about what they're doing right now. She goes, I was trying to figure out what will we do for lunch, and what time will we take lunch? And she said, will I be able to pick up the kids? And she goes, I was also thinking, are we going to go down that run today, or will we jump down this other run and ski? And she was also thinking, if we're going to get done around 3:30, will we leave before the lifts close? And if we get back, what will we have for dinner? She thought, she goes, I started thinking, listen, she went off, she even forgot that I asked a question. She started talking aloud. She started thinking, I was also thinking, should we do burritos for dinner tonight, or should I do the leftovers that I brought up there in the refrigerator? And she kept going. Oh my gosh. She was running, and women, by the way, whenever I say this, everyone shakes their head, you get it, and all the men go, I don't get that. I literally don't get that. Okay, we have a lot of fun stuff to go. Here's what I don't want you to think. It always gets sketchy when you go into this because people it gets competitive. What I want you to understand is it's not competitive. It's not a matter of who's smarter, who's faster, who's all that. It works out that we're like Legos. We're designed to be together. We actually complement each other very, very well. You're going to watch how that happens as we do our different jobs, okay? We're more like Legos. It's not a competition. There's always great jokes like this. A woman walked into the kitchen to find her husband stalking around with a fly swatter. She asked him, what are you doing? He says, I'm hunting flies. She said, really? Did you get any yet? Did you kill any? He said, yep, I got 3 males and 2 females, he replied. She questioned it. She thought to herself, how can you tell them apart? And he said, oh, 3 were on the beer can and 2 were on the phone. It's funny, isn't it? Now, wherever there's smoke, there's fire. There's some truth there, right? There's a lot of truth. I'll show you where that comes from. Okay, a lot of this information comes from all these things. Controlled study, brain scans. Now we have the ability to scan brains and look at where the brain activity is working. I got some really crazy stuff to show you guys on some scans on brains and what we do. Anthropology, looking at history and how we've developed and how we interrelate with each other, and a lot of books. Okay, if you like this stuff, because this is only about an hour or so of this stuff I can go through, you can ask me. I'll tell you there's some really interesting things to dive in and read on. All right, now it always gets a little crazy when you go through these. And one of what's known as a logic fallacy is when people hear something they don't like. There's like 6 to 12 of these logic fallacies, which people fall in. One's called a straw man. One's called these different things where people go, that's not true because of this. One of the ones I want you to be careful is what's called a hasty generalization. What that means is, I'm going to say, women do this. And there's always someone that says, well, I don't do that. My aunt doesn't do that. And I get it. Not everybody does that. Okay? So you don't get to win the argument by using a number one person, right? You don't get to go, well, I don't cut my hair like that. Well, I know you don't, but a bell curve, right? That's what we're looking at on these. These are trends. These aren't 100%. Most people do this. Some people do a lot of it. Some people do none of it. Okay? So no jumping in here with hasty generalizations, and you know it's a good talk when you get Calvin Hobbes on there, right? All right. Great book right here called It's Not You, It's Your Biology. I would encourage every single person to read it. I've had all my kids read it. They love it. It's just mind-blowing. What his premise of the book is that men, he goes, if you want to understand the difference between men and women, you have to understand that men are sperm spreaders. That's what they do. And women, he refers to them as egg garters. And he said the reason is women to get pregnant is a gigantic risk. it takes enormous energy. Because a human being, when a female gets, if you go back a few thousand years ago, he talks about if a woman gets pregnant, what happens? She's got 9 months where what? Her energy demands are much, much higher. So that's harder for her. Second of all, she's pregnant and she can't move very well and very fast. So she's at high risk. That's just the beginning of her investment, right? Because as a human being, we birth little creatures that can't even move for months. So now she's holding this little creature that she has to take care of. Other mammals look at us like we're crazy because we birth these little fetuses basically that don't move because of our huge head size, by the way. So we have to birth them early. Other animals, what? As soon as they birth, what happens? They hop up and start running around, right? So humans know if I get pregnant, I have to take care of this baby for a long time. I'm locked down. I'm at high risk. I've got an animal. So women are very particular about who they decide to hook up with. Men, on the other hand, tend to be, hey, I'm just going to do whatever they can. I'm just going to keep moving my genes around as best I can. Some very interesting things in this book that I find funny. The battle is inside or outside. They did some studies on certain animals' sperm. I think this is just a funny one. And they found out that sperm actually are different. Some of them are really fast. And so when they're inside, they actually form like a little battlefield and they knock things off and they shoot one sperm up and they try to win this battle. Very aggressive, very tactical sperm inside. Those are the ones where the mammals mate with multiple men, or not men, males, right? So if the species is mating, if one female ends up mating with multiple males, the battle to get your genes moved up is where? Inside. So the sperm are very aggressive and they're very tactical inside. Super interesting. Now, if the animal like a gorilla mates, he wins. He's the alpha male. He gets to mate with as many females as he wants. Guess what his sperms are? Dumb and slow. They're methodical. There's no battle inside. Why? Because the fight for the female was where? Outside. It wasn't inside. It was outside. The fight was out with teeth and claws and muscles, and he won, and then he gets all the females, and his sperm just do whatever, they just meander out. Really interesting stuff. Here's another one. I think you'll have testicular size. I know it's kind of a weird topic, but he said the larger the mammal's testicles, the more they cheat. Isn't that crazy? He said the larger the testicles, the more they cheat. And what he meant by that is, yeah. And well, yeah, get to that. At the question, he's like, he does this whole chapter about like different animals. The larger the male testicles, the more they sleep around. Really interesting. Gorillas, by the way, tiny little testicles don't sleep around. And in the book, he goes, you're all wondering the same question, because you were all wondering the same question too, right? Where are we? We're right in the middle. We're right dead center in the middle on that one, okay? Another study out of the book, which is super interesting to show you how this stuff works. They took a look at people that had different sized body parts, like bigger ears, bigger necks, longer noses, all that stuff, and they put them up in front of people, and they said, tell us what you think as far as what's the body part that's different. And like 90% of people would say, oh, his ears are big. Or, oh, she has a long neck. Or, oh, she has. So they would go and measure these people, and they would measure her ears, and what they found over and over and over and over is that people were right. They could pick it out. Here's the thing. The average ear was that big. The ear they were talking that was too big was just slightly bigger. And they said, it's amazing, our ability to pick out very slight deviations that are away from normal. Now, how great is that, and why is that important? Here's why. Because you ever see that bird, that one female bird that's sitting there, and what, there's like 5 males doing the mating dance, right? And they all look the same to me, and they all look the same to you, right? Feathers are flying, and they're all working for it, right? I'm like, somehow magically she picks one out, right? And so in the book, what they talk about is she has the ability to pick out very fine details, because she's not going to give up that egg for someone who's not going to help her be healthy down the road. So our ability to pick out very fine things to make sure our genes can move forward is really, really out of control specific. Really interesting. It's a great book. You should read it. It's really fun. He writes it with a lot of humor. Now we get to an interesting point. One of my favorite researchers is Robert Sapolsky. He's a Stanford professor. He does a lot of research on stress. His stress book, if you haven't read that, gosh, you should get that. It's so interesting. He does work with baboons. Okay, he's out in the field with baboons all the time, researching how their physiology works and everything. But he also does a lot of work on free will. And you can go on YouTube and listen to him do a lot of lectures. And his whole premise on this is, do we really have free will? Or are we driven by our physiology, our neurology, from our past relatives and our lifestyles and everything. And he argues, very, very interestingly, that guess what? We don't have free will. We think we do, but we don't. In other words, our brains, our physiology, our chemistry dictates what we do in advance. One of the examples he gives is you're driving down the street. Up pops the McDonald's sign, and you think, I think I'm hungry. You weren't actually hungry until you saw the sign that triggered your saliva glands. Remember Pavlov's dog with the bell? It triggered you, and your body thought, let's eat, and you went over. Right? In other words, that's not free will. You were dictated by the marketing program to go eat. So he talks about free will. He uses a really incredible study that was done in Australia on judges. Judges who were dealing with people who had broken their probation. This judge has to decide, these judges have to decide if the person who broke their probation goes back to jail or if they get to go free to the street. And after doing prolonged studies on these multiple judges in Australia, you know what they found out? The one thing, the absolute one thing that determined whether the person went back to jail or went back on the street was singularly this option, which was they hungry or not? If the judge was hungry, the person went back to jail. If the judge wasn't hungry, they went free. Do we have free will? I would argue it might be up to date. Right? It might be up to date. Whether that judge is hungry, their blood sugar's low, they're not in a good mood, boom, you're going back to jail. Really interesting stuff. He talks a lot about that. So as I walk you through this and I show you guys the brain chemistry, realize a lot of this stuff is actually pre-programmed in this. We all think, oh, I'm doing this because I think it's going to be pre-wired. Here's some of the gender health things I want you to see. First of all, here's a great question. Anybody think of that? Why do men have nipples? Why do we have them? Dr. Osborne said, well, because we can get them pierced. So I don't think he had the luxury of not having to get up here. I said, well, okay, that's not going to work. But it's funny and it makes sense.
That's when he decided he was going to do the talking himself.
So the reason men have nipples, they believe, is because we all start out as females. When you're born inside, early in the beginning, we're all females. The Y chromosome, okay, when it jumps, it only codes for 100 genes. So women are XX, okay, men are XY. So you get the Y one from your dad. And when that kicks in, we start out, we're developing the same way. And at some point, that Y chromosome kicks in, and it bathes that little baby's body in testosterone. And the party changes dramatically. Things grow different. The body changes. The neurologic system changes. The vision changes. The hearing changes. I'm about to show you all those things. Women are more prone to hormonal diseases because they have a lot of genes. Men, look at what they're more prone to. Gene mutations. You know why? They don't have as many genes because they have a Y chromosome that only codes for 100 genes. So we're a little bit less in that department. Let's talk about some of the big changes here biology-wise. Men are bigger, no doubt about that. We know that. Okay? Men are stronger, but not really. Not really. Men have more muscle, but if you actually take out a small part of muscle from female and the same amount from men, guess what? It's the exact same strength. It's just that men have more of the same fibers. That's the only difference. We're really not stronger. We just have more of it. Men's ligaments are stronger. Ligaments are the tough bands that hold the bones together, so they're a lot stronger. Okay? Women's ligaments are more lax. Men have a greater what's called VO2 max. That stands for volume of oxygen. And it's a measurement that we use to check someone's fitness level. In other words, you put them on a machine like this, you hook them up to a mask. We used to do this in my undergrads in exercise physiology. So we would put people in the human performance lab, okay? And you hook them up, and what you read is how much carbon dioxide they're kicking out. Because that gives you a measurement of how well they're using oxygen. And then what you do, by the way, if anybody says, hey, you want to do your VO2 max, you should immediately say no, okay? And the reason you say no is if you haven't done it, you have to exercise until you fail. That's known as throwing up. You put them on a treadmill, okay, and they start running, and they start running, and you just keep snapping a whip at them, and you run, and then you take the treadmill and you start angling it up, and angling it up, and you get them until they fail. You got to get them to a high level, and you just measure how much of the oxygen they're using. That gives you the ability of that human being to use oxygen. Men's VO2 max is higher, right, than women. Women have 2/3 of the strength of men. They're smaller. They have wider pelvises. Women have better balance. They're lower to the ground, center of gravity's lower, they have better balance than men. Think about that. Why? Women have babies, women stay low, women hold things. There's a lot of like reasons you start breaking it down. Women are actually more efficient at converting glycogen. Now, what is glycogen? The body, when you eat food, it turns it into blood sugar called glucose. If you don't use it, it goes and stores it in the liver and the muscles in the form of glycogen. It's just a big molecule of storage. Women, it turns out, are actually really, really efficient at reaching back in and getting that energy and bringing it back out. Men are not. Everybody ever heard of your exercise, you hit the wall? Has anybody hit the wall? I've hit the wall many times. You're running or swimming and you're like, and I'm done. I am not going, right? That's hitting the wall. Women rarely hit the wall. They're really good elite athletes. They're really strong. In fact, in many elite athletic events, women win over men. They don't hit the wall. Men can go faster for a while, but we bonk out. Women tend to do better with glycogen. Here's one of my lovely ones. I got this. I thought it was so interesting. When we're born, male baby's retina, that's the back of your eyeball that reads the light that comes in, male baby retinas are thicker. Female babies have thin retinas. Male retinas are full of what are called M cells. M cells are the light cells that respond in your eye to motion. Male babies are looking at motion. Female babies have more P cells. They're thinner retina in the back of the eye and they're full of P cells. P cells are designed to look at detail, textures, angles, faces. Cool study. They took babies. Didn't tell the researchers whether it was a boy or a girl baby. Put them in a crib. Inside the crib, there's a mobile moving around. Okay? On this side of the crib is a female nurse with her head in looking at the baby. 85% of the male babies focused on what? The mobile. It's moving. 85% of them focus on the mobile and not look at the face. 90% of the girl babies focused on what? The face. The face. They focused on the face. They're more about details. Isn't it interesting? Who ends up hunting and looking at things moving? The males. Right? Who hears better? Women hear better. But more specifically, they hear high tones better. Why? Babies. Right? High-pitched noises women hear better than males. So when you're talking and you go, he's not listening, it's true, he can't hear. That's why he's not. He literally can't hear. Okay? Men have more testosterone. We're going to talk about that as we move through here. More testosterone makes you bigger, makes you stronger, makes you more aggressive, makes you pay a huge health price in stress. Stress and testosterone, it drives you crazy, it makes you really aggressive, but it also creates heart disease, creates strokes, and it makes you die earlier. Men pay a huge price for being big, aggressive fighters and protectors. We die earlier than women. Women have more knee injuries. I like this one. It's kind of interesting. Remember, they have more lax ligaments, but one thing they think about is that women have these wider pelvises, therefore their knees under more stress. And it's not small, by the way. Women basketball players at collegiate level blow out their knees at about a 50 to 60% higher rate than males. Volleyball players are the same. They think it's because of the Q angle, they're a little more knock-kneed because the hips are wired, so the knees are kind of bent in, and they blow out their ligaments a lot more rate than men do. Male mind versus female mind. Okay, here's how this works. Inside of a male's brain, there's boxes. Okay? They're boxes. And there's a lot of them. And none of them touch. They're all very nicely placed. Okay? And they're organized in their little boxes, and they all have little lids, and they're all great. And if you come up to me and say, would you like to talk about the San Jose Sharks? I go, put it back where it belongs, making sure it makes no contact to anything else in there. So it's nice and safe, it's untouched, it's lovely. Now, here's the crazy thing, women, guess what I also have? over here where you can't see, I have a box that you pull out. Guess what's in it? We all have empty boxes. And we love the empty box. It's a place we get to go and hang out. Awesome. And a lot of women say, oh my gosh, I would love to have that. Can I come by your place and just hang out in the empty box? And the answer is no, you cannot. You cannot. And you know why you can't? Because as soon as you come into my empty box, you're going to come in and go, well, this is really boring. We should have a picture right there. I'm like, no, that's why you're not allowed to be in here. I don't want a picture in the box. It's an empty box where I get to go hang out by myself. Right? And you come in and go, well, we should have a couch. There should be some flowers over here. And a pet would be great in here. We should put a radio. I mean, like, no. Okay? No. Men have empty boxes. That's what we do. Women, on the other hand, what? Everything is connected to everything. Women's brains look like a big ball of wire. Everything is interlaced. That's what a woman's brain looks like. Everything. Everything is touching everything. Right? It's amazing. You know why you guys are so good at multitasking? Because he said the first time I realized this, he goes, I was at home, we had 3 kids, my kids were all young. He goes, I'd come home from work. He goes, the 2 kids were in the living room tearing it up. My wife was holding the baby and she was making dinner. I came in, she said, John, you're running late again. And he's like, I didn't even realize I was running late, but okay. He said, I went in, she's cooking. He goes, the phone rang, she's holding the baby, she answers the phone. And he goes, I was over at the kitchen table, like, putting my stuff down. And she said, John, it's for you, it's your friend, Rick. And he said, everything, it's just chaos. He picks it up, and he goes, hey, Rick. And he goes, he said, I walked out of the kitchen into the other room, and he goes, Rick was talking to me. He's like, yeah, I think I can go golfing on Saturday. And he said, then is when my life changed. From the other room, his wife said, John, you can't golf. We're going to the club on Saturday. And he said, oh, my God. How did she do that? She was cooking, holding the baby, monitoring the other kids in the other room, and what was she doing? Listening to my conversation, considering the calendar for what was coming in a month or 2. And he was like, I couldn't even focus on the conversation, right? Like, he goes, I had one thing. That's that spaghetti. He goes, it's amazing. Women's brains are really more efficient, right? Now, men have the gift of kind of being able to focus on one thing, right? But women's brains are good. For a male, this is crucial to understand. It's absolutely crucial to understand, okay? Because women are constantly processing information. Men are not. Came across this book, Morality Molecules, written by Paul Zak. Paul Zak said he didn't want to study men and women, but he kind of stumbled into it. And he started taking a look at oxytocin. So oxytocin is typically associated with breastfeeding, pregnancy, and women have oxytocin. And he said he started looking at it, and he said it's actually a really shy little molecule. It's hard to isolate. It's in the brain. You have to catch it really quick. It comes out and it disappears quickly if you don't get it. He said we figured out how to do that, and so we've been studying it for 10 years, and it's pretty amazing. He said oxytocin, when it's in your brain, it makes you feel secure. Dim lighting will increase it. People will know it makes you. If you get a hug from somebody, they've done all studies. If someone comes up and gives you a hug, your brain releases oxytocin, and you want to hug them back. It's like a love molecule. It's really cool. If someone comes up and gives you money, you feel good about them, oxytocin is released, and you want to give money back, you want to help people, it makes you feel good about stuff. Okay? Men have oxytocin in too. He said they'll respond the same, but he said for 10 years, what he's discovered is a lot of bad boys. He said women are actually really nice, and they have a lot of oxytocin in their brain. Men don't have as much. He said every single study I have done on this, women always, 100%, produce a lot more oxytocin in their brain than men. Men just don't. He said we did a study one time where the person was interacting with somebody on a computer, and if the person was nice to him, they would measure the increase in oxytocin. If the person on the computer wasn't nice to them, women would drop their oxytocin and they were fine. When someone was mean to a male on it, they didn't produce any oxytocin, they produced something else. Testosterone. And when you produce testosterone, you get angry. And he said men literally wanted to go beat that person up. He said men take things very, very personal. They release testosterone. Women don't. Women just decrease the amount of oxytocin and they move on. Men produce testosterone. Remember I was saying free will, right? Something happens, you see the guy get all angry, and you think, why is he so mad? It may not, it's just a brain chemistry thing that's flipping on it. Okay? So the golden rule molecule, they called it, because if you do something nice for somebody, or if somebody does something nice for you, you want to do it back with them. All right? You share, you're nice, you get a lot of it, they always produce more. Ovulation, when you're ovulating, right, you produce a lot of what? Estrogen. When you increase estrogen, you guys ready for this, women? Estrogen increases your brain's sensitivity to oxytocin. You ever start crying for no apparent reason? Ever feel overly emotional during that time? Because estrogen makes you more sensitive to oxytocin. Now, he was making an interesting comment. He said, this is probably because if you're at that stage where you might get pregnant, you want to make sure that the person you're with, you're emotionally connected with. So it makes sense. In that time period of your life, you don't want to just be haphazardly moving through it. Oxytocin is released, estrogen makes you overly sensitive to it, so that you're very emotional and you can connect and make good bonds if you're thinking about having a baby. You have to be, remember, if you're going to have a baby, you have to have protection and you have to have help. Thousands of years ago, running it alone, getting pregnant and running alone did not work out very well. You needed help, okay? Testosterone is a very potent oxytocin what? Inhibitor. It shuts it off. Guy gets mad, testosterone's released, shuts down oxytocin, right? All right, men get aggressive. Interesting study. I've known this one for a long time. I saw this on an episode of Scientific America a long time ago. It was done in the Netherlands. They went to a nightclub, young people, dancing, partying, Friday. They did it for months. They went Friday and Saturday night. And all they did is the researchers would go into the bar and they would go up to different women and they'd say, hey, we're doing a research study out on the balcony, and then come out. And they got a lot of women, these college age women, they go on the balcony, and they said, here's what we're gonna do. They had cameras set up. You can still hear the music going, right? And they'd say, just dance for us. Just dance. So these women would dance and they would video. And the researchers then had them fill out a questionnaire. And they would take their pictures and they send them back and say, great. And what they found after doing this time after time after time, you guys ready for this? When women were ovulating in a stage where they could get pregnant, they would look at how they dance on the videos and they decided hands down they would dance more seductively. But more importantly, they took pictures of them and they measured how much skin they showed. They almost always were dressed with more skin showing. Free will, kind of interesting, isn't it? They know, hey, just they don't. These women don't. And they have a survey. They said, did you think? But they think about it. The women, no, I just got dressed to go out tonight. I was just dancing. Really interesting stuff. John Gray. Has everyone heard of Mars and Venus by John Gray?
Yeah.
You ever heard the story of how he came across it? He said he was a counselor. He said he was giving a talk one time, and he was frustrated because he was trying to explain how men and women communicate and how they get along. And he goes, I was trying to explain it to this whole group of people. He was in the 70s, and he goes, I was trying to tell him, and he goes, I got frustrated, and I finally said, listen, imagine your man is E.T. and he's from another planet. And he said, this one woman said, well, where's my man from? And he goes, your man must be from Mars. And he said, right then he realized he was onto something. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We're from different planets. We interact and we do things differently. He launched his whole career on the basis of this, on brain scans of how things work. He talks about brain scans. When women think, when you put you in a brain scan so you can see your brain work, when women talk, communicate, answer questions, their brain lights up all over. Spaghetti. You're all over the place. You're over here in logic, you're listening, you're processing. Your brain is moving all over the place like lightning speed. Lightning speed. You ever had that discussion with another woman and she's talking about something and you're sitting there like, now, my male brain can't keep up, right? Wait, I thought we were talking about, wait, what are we talking about? I thought men's brains, interestingly enough, in the same conversations, light up in one spot. I'm listening, and then you say, what do you think of that, Dr. Sherry? Okay, what do you think? I'll go over here to my logic department, I'll process that for a few minutes. And you're going on, right? You're now 3 conversations ahead, and I come back over to my listening, and I go, I'm sorry, what are we doing? Where are we at? And you go, were you not listening? And I go, hold on. And I go back to my memory. I go, no, I was listening. And then I go, wait, what are we talking about now? You guys see how that can create some communication gaps, right? Women's brains are like high-speed computers. You pay a price for it, though, because it drives you crazy. Remember, all those women said if we could just get it to stop, it would be great, right? Men don't get that because I'm here and then I go here. We're just kind of like, I'm over here in this room and then I turn the light off and I walk to this room, right? My head doesn't just shine everywhere across there. He has a ton of really cool videos. Go to YouTube, pull him up and listen to him. He's got a bunch of good stuff. He's really funny when he presents. He'll walk you through this as well. Okay, now we get down to some of the brass tacks on this, on how the brain actually works. Now, don't get freaked out by this picture. I just kind of put it up from my own memory. When babies are born, inside of our brain, we have two hemispheres. We got this half and this half. Okay? And they're connected by that white band right there called the corpus callosum. So that the two hemispheres can talk, right? Remember, you got one artsy side, one logic side. They have to communicate back and forth. And if you really want to see something cool, they do have people where they cut that. They slice it so the two hemispheres can't talk, and there's all kinds of weird stuff that takes place when they do that. Women's corpus callosum, the communication between the two hemispheres, is 25% bigger. 25% bigger. You're able to move information freely back and forth much more rapidly than men. Your hippocampus, which is deep in the middle of the brain. Don't worry about the fancy name. Hippocampus, by the way, is Greek for seahorse. Okay? Hippocampus, it looks like a seahorse. It's for memory. It makes you remember things. Women's hippocampus, tremendously bigger than male's hippocampus. So when you sit down and say, I was thinking, and do you remember that conversation we had 2 years ago? When you said you like bananas, but you don't like banana nut bread? And I was thinking, listen, I don't have a hippocampus big enough to remember that. It's not that I'm being ornery. I don't remember. I honestly do not remember the banana nut bread conversation. I don't. Men don't have the ability to remember like you guys do. Women's brains are really, really good at remembering things. Okay? They're really good at remembering things. White matter, okay? So when you look at a brain, the outer part is gray. The gray part is where the cells are. That's the processing part. That's the thinking part. All the white part is the communication technique, right? So those are like the telephone wires. The gray matter is the actual phone where people are putting in data. All the telephone wires are the white matter. Guess what? Women, 10 times more activity in the white matter. Why? Because their brain's dancing all over the place. It's amazing, right? Their prefrontal cortex, up here where you make decisions, is hugely larger. Decisions, social judgments, details. We're at a wedding the other day. We're walking out of the wedding. My girlfriend looks at me and she says, did you see that couple, the guy that was wearing the brown jacket, and he had on black shoes, and that he had that really big belt buckle, and he was with a woman that had the kind of the bigger hair. She had a really, did you see the diamond on her finger? And she had, you remember her? And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. She goes, you didn't see the woman? Remember she had blue sleeves and the red, like, halter top thing right here? You didn't see her? Remember she pulled her phone out? I'm like, how do I know that stuff? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Were we in the same party? Like, how? She's like, how do you not see that? I'm like, how do you see that? I don't know that. I have no idea. Women are better at noticing detail. Women have a radar, by the way. Because of the ability to look at the faces really well and define it, women can look at faces and pick out reactions much, much better than males. Much, much better. Why? Probably babies, right? Also, you have to remember, women are more at danger, right? So they're more worried about environment. When you have other animals that are a lot bigger, faster, and can kill you, men can kind of fight. Like, that's all deal. Men are there to survive and protect and do all these things. Women are there going, we're watching the situation. I'm keeping an eye. I'm always watching. You guys have to be a little more political. I gotta know who to mate with. I gotta know who to hang out with. I gotta know who's going to protect you. Men are just big and stupid, moving through the world, right? We don't care about that so much. We're just there to move. Male brains, surprisingly, we have a larger, what's called amygdala. That's deep in the middle of the brain. And the amygdala is for what? Fighting. It's for aggression. It's for getting pissed off. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. Does it surprise you that men have a larger amygdala? Guess what amygdala responds really well to? Testosterone. That's how it fires itself up, right? Men's gray matter, the processing part of that brain, is 7 times more active. In other words, we're able to go to the gray matter and really focus, and we get tunnel vision. Right? The other day I was working in the garden. Right? I went out, I had one thing in mind. I had to put the fence around the garden because the dog was digging up the vegetables. I got to put that fence in. I was out there putting on the fence. And I don't know, like 5 things happened in the house, and they came out and they're like, did you not hear the dog? You didn't hear the mailman? You didn't know the dog was out front running and was chasing the neighbor's rat, and you didn't know that the neighbor had a attack. I'm like, where was I? Like, did I miss something? She's like, you didn't know the fire department was here like 10 minutes ago? I'm like, all I know is I got the fence up. I know that's good, and the dog won't take up a lot anymore. So gray matter body, we're much easier to just focus and stay on things. Women are good at processing all kinds of things. Okay, we talked about that. Here's a really interesting one. This Norwegian study, they took college volunteers, and they would put them into an MRI tube, big machine, right? And they had orgasms. And these guys were like, listen, no one's done this. No one's looked at the human brain when they have an orgasm. What does it do? They want to find out. So they had a bunch of college women volunteer to come in. They put them in the tube. They had a bunch of college guys. By the way, the number, guess how many men signed up? Listen, that alone is a big difference. They had so many males volunteer. They're like, yeah, we can't, we've already filled this position like a long time ago. They didn't get as many women to do it, all right? But they got them in there. What was interesting is like 80% of the men were able to have orgasms in the MRI tube, no problem. Only about 20% of the women, right? Interesting brain difference. But what they found is when an orgasm happens in a human being, everything lights up. Our brains light up like a Christmas tree. It literally is the coolest thing you can do on this planet. Your brain just goes, that is the best thing in the world. Very similar. Both of our brains very similar when they do that. There's one major difference that they discovered. There's part of the brain that's designed for awareness. And when it's on, you're looking around. You know when that deer pops its head up and looks around like, what is that? What is that? That part of the brain is lit up like a Christmas tree. It's the awareness center. And the one main difference is when males have orgasms, that part of their brain is still active. Where women, it is not. Women go, see ya, they disappear. They go enjoy themselves. And men will have an orgasm, but the alert center of their brain is still active. The theory these researchers came out and said, listen, if out in the wild, where there are wild animals or something, probably a good idea if somebody kind of keeps their head up and looking around to see what's going on. Right? Kind of an interesting brain difference. I thought that was fun to talk about. Testosterone males, 20-30% more testosterone. Aggression, we pay the price for it. When males drop their testosterone, though, they begin to feel bad. They don't feel good about themselves. Their sex drive drops. They have a bad attitude. They lose their drive to be successful. If you take away testosterone is like a high octane fuel for a male. It's what makes us go. And if you drop my testosterone, I will crash. I cannot function. I use that as my energy source. I feel unsuccessful and things don't happen. The way a man will replenish his testosterone levels is he goes to where? His cave. He goes to his cave. I have to disconnect because I have to go replenish testosterone. I've got to find a safe place. I'm like a superhero. I become the super monster. My energy's gone. I got to go hide. And I go sit and I refill. Okay? I refill if I do that. Right? I've got to go to the empty box. I've got to ignore issues. I've got to ignore people. I've got to hide. I've got to re-energize so I can tackle the problem. Free will, or is it physiology? Sounds like physiology, doesn't it? I do this all the time. Something big comes up, and I think, I don't want to deal with that right now. I just need some time alone. I gotta go. And then, well, that's not time alone. You're playing a video. Okay, that's still my cake. That's still me doing my thing. I'm reading an article. Well, you're reading an article on dog food from China. Yeah, it's still my thing. It's my way of disconnecting to replenish testosterone in my body. When I'm successful, more testosterone shoots up. When I have setbacks, testosterone drops. Stress. Under stress, I drop testosterone rapidly. Which, by the way, does what? Increases the stress. You see the ugly cycle? I'm under stress, testosterone drops, dropping testosterone. You guys see how men get depressed, how men commit suicide, how men freak out. Because the testosterone drops, I'm getting stressed, my testosterone drops, I'm not successful, and they just keep going down the brain chemistry hole and disappear. Okay? So women, from that standpoint, when you see a male going down the rabbit hole, going to him and chasing him and trying to pull him out is a bit of a challenge because he's trying to replenish, right? Like he's trying to replenish. So you're like, hey, you need to be more active. See, men tend to treat women how they want to be treated, right? Like when you get in a fight, I'm like, oh, that's so stressful. You should probably go to the cave, and all go to the cave. Women are dramatically different, aren't they? women want to do is what? Process. Process. Men want to be a way to replenish, women need the process to replenish. Metabolism. We have different metabolisms on different things. One of the number one things, and I talk to my daughter about this all the time, women do not process toxins the same way, but specifically we're going to talk about alcohol. Women do not metabolize alcohol nearly at the rate that men do, at all. Which is why, and my daughter, I have a conversation all the time. So you're going to go to the party, and the boys are always trying to do what? Drink more, drink more. I said you can never keep up with a male. They have too much male tissue. They have enzymes down alcohol and rate. You will not get as drunk as you. You cannot go drink to drink for a male. You will absolutely never win that battle. Women, it takes much longer time for you to break it down. You don't have those enzymes as adequately provided, and you will get drunk and you will die because it just goes and your body can't process it and it just fills you up. Okay? So that's one way. Same with other toxins when you look at it. Some of the interesting health diseases that men suffer from is they suffer from, these are female concerns, sorry. Women suffer from menopause, osteoporosis, depression, breast cancer, and thyroid. Those are the primary ones that physiology works. And you're going to see that in a minute as I get to this about how we approach things differently. Again, we're a lot alike as far as our needs, but we have different conditions because we have some differences in the way our bodies function. Male health concerns, a little different. High blood pressure, cholesterol. By the way, those top two are what? Testosterone driven, right? Those are heart attacks and strokes. By the way, stress related too, right? High testosterone, a lot of stress, drops, you just go on this dance, and there we are. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, men get a lot, and prostate cancers. See, they're similar, but dramatically different diseases. So what do we have in common? Well, heart disease. Women get heart disease as well. So what we have in common is this. Our bodies are actually more alike than they're different. We use the same basic sources for food and things. Same processes for health in our body. We need the same building blocks. Now, what I mean by that is, if I'm going to build a house and the woman across the street is going to build a house, we both have to go to Home Depot and get wood, hammer, nails, glue. Same building blocks have to go in. The same food, the same fats, the same stuff goes in. Now, I end up building a different house than she built, but we still need the same building blocks. Okay? There's some slight variations, but very similar stuff that we need. We use the same supplies: carbs, fats, proteins, minerals, vitamins. Nervous system runs everything. Both of us need nerve flow. We both have that network, although it's working slightly different in ways. It still runs everything, and it still goes through our spines. Women's low backs, by the way, slightly different, okay, because of carrying babies, they think. Okay? The angle and the low is slightly different, so they carry babies. We all need to exercise. There's a great article by Robert Sapolsky. He talks about how wild animals, if you and I were jogging and we ran past a river full of hippopotamuses would look at us and go, huh, wonder what's chasing the funny looking humanoids. And they would look and go, looks like there's nothing chasing them. Are they stupid? Why are they wasting energy? Like, are they complete idiots? Why would they do that? No animal does that. Human beings are different. Really interesting study. They went out to look at monkeys. This guy's graduate program, they went out and he said, what we wanted to find out, he said, we went out arrogantly to look at monkeys, and he said, we were just trying to figure out how much exercise a monkey does every day. What does a monkey do? Do they do push-ups? Do they run? Do they go to the gym? What do they do? He said, so we got out there, we had 3 weeks. He goes, the first day we got out there, he goes, we got to get there before the monkeys wake up. They're in the trees. So we got there about 5 a.m. We set up. And he said, we waited, and he said, the monkeys started waking up, and they started howling. These were howler monkeys, and they started making noise. And he said, we sat there after hour after hour, and he said, after about 2 weeks, we realized monkeys are actually really lazy. They don't do anything. He said, they'll wake up in the morning, they get up, they howl a little bit, they go eat some mangoes, they come back to their trees. He said they might fight a little bit here and there, spend the day, they might go get some water, maybe fight a little bit, then they sit in the trees, and he said around 4 or 5 o'clock they eat another big fruit meal, and then they start making their nest. He said they literally are the laziest creatures ever. But here's the thing, they're in amazing shape. They're amazing. They're not, you don't see the howler monkey walking around with a big beer gut on him because he's been sitting around. He said human beings are different. We have to actually exercise. We have to move. Other animals look at us, why would you guys waste energy doing that? Our physiology is different. We have to exercise while we do that. They're just naturally out there doing this. Okay? Nourishing your body for health is really important. So we're going to talk about the core plan here. In our system, we've got the book. Hopefully everyone has read it. But the core plan is the basis of giving you the right things for your body to function right. Okay? A lot of the foods that are out there that we eat now are not. A lot of the processed foods are really bad. They're stripped of the things that we need. One of the greatest ways to so I'll tell you about, they always used to tell us the way you want to shop is on the outside. Okay? On the outside of the house. Don't go down the middle. All the processed stuff in the grocery store is on the outside. So I would always like, yeah, that's right. Like over here's all the fruits and vegetables, and then over here's like the bakery. It's got the grains and stuff. And that's great. Until Safeway put all the alcohol on the outside, and that really changed my way of shop. So I can't say that anymore because you'll be just buying alcohol the whole time. But you want to make sure you're not buying all these processed foods. So last weekend, so there's a product in shampoo called SLS, and it was a degreaser. We talk a lot about it in our toxin class. It's a degreaser. Dr. Josh talked about it. Said it was invented to degrease big heavy materials like equipment and stuff, right? And it suds up, and they found, oh, that's really cool. So they started putting it in all of our shampoos, your toothpaste. SLS is one of the number one toxins you don't want. You don't want a mechanical degreaser on it, right? You don't want it in shampoo. The bummer is you get in the shower, you heat up your head, your pores open, and you put SLS on your head. You don't want that. That's bad toxin, right? So the reason I say that is I was down in Long Beach over the weekend, and we're in a hotel that does the breakfast, which is, you guys know those breakfasts, there's nothing there good, right? So I was walking in, I was looking, and I was telling my daughter, I'm like, here, and they have a waffle maker, and I said, just out of curiosity, what is in the spray? The spray had SLS in it. I took a picture of it. I didn't put it on this. I was like, oh my God. I took a picture. It has a degreaser, a industrial level degreaser inside the spray that you spray on the waffle iron. By the way, the waffles don't stick. They don't stick at all. Like if you put degreaser on the waffle thing, it turns out it actually works really well. There's no waffle stuck anywhere. Okay? But I wouldn't want to be eating that stuff. The advanced plan is a little bit more. In the book, you guys can read about it. We're not going through it tonight, but in the book, you should be getting this. If you don't, they're up front. You can get them. Talks about the advanced plan and the core plan. Now, there's women's multivitamins and there's men's multivitamins. And a lot of people ask, why are they different? And they're different because we do have variations. We have different health concerns around them. So I'm going to go through the vitamins just quickly here so you can see it. The women's multivitamin is designed, obviously, for women, and the men's one is designed for the men. The B complex that we put in this, the B complex vitamins are very, very, very important for stress. You've got to have a B complex going in your diet because that's how we fight off stress. Stress, by the way, is the #1 killer of Americans. #1 because it creates almost all these conditions. I've done a stress workshop for years. I worked for the fire department. I did all their stress workshops. And you sit these guys down and you show them how stress kills them, and it blows them away. Stress is the #1 killer. B vitamins are one of the #1 ways to help protect you against the effect of stress. Here's the #1 that you need though. If you're not doing this, we're in big trouble. These are the omega fatty acids. So they started thinking, well, people who eat fat are fat, and people who eat fat have heart attacks. And they said, don't eat fat. You guys remember that? It was really discovered it was sugar, but they were like, it's fat, it's fat, it's fat. And you know what the first clue that should have woke us up is when they went up to Alaska and they took a look at the Inuit people and they found out that they don't have heart attacks. Like hardly ever have heart attacks. But what do they eat? All they eat is fat. Like massive amounts of whale fat. They just eat fat. That was in the 70s. And the researchers were like, well, that makes sense. Like, we said fat is fat, and these people are just eating fat, but they're really healthy. Oh, just move on. They just left it. Just leave it. And kept telling us to what? Eat low fat. Eat low fat. Keep eating low fat. And it was fed to us by the sugar companies that didn't want you to realize it was a sugar. But they just got in the loop. A different kind of fat. Okay? They were eating the omega-3 fatty acids. The omega-6 fatty acids that we're all eating, right, feed the inflammatory and turn you into an inflammation machine. You eat the sugar, you eat those fats, heart attack. They were eating these fats, the omega-3, the fish oil fats, which actually turn off inflammation. So you need this. They did a survey, and we have this test kit here too. I don't have that tonight. They think the ratio of these, by the way, should be 1 omega-3 to 3, maybe 5 omega-6s. 1 to 1 is really good, but people have a hard time with that. You know what the average American is right now? 1 omega-3 to 25 omega-6s. So the way the researchers said is we want you to be 1 to 5. Everyone follow in that? We want you to be 1 to 5. 1 to 5, 1 to 5. 1 omega-3 to 5 omega-6s. Omega-6, by the way, you know where it's at? It's in corn. You know where you're getting corn? Everywhere. The U.S. government supplements it. They continue to feed corn. It's this political battle that happens because Iowa grows corn, and the Iowa caucus is always where the first president goes. And if you don't win that, you don't become president. So they always support corn because they feed corn to what? To animals, so that it's a cheap source of the government paying. It's just big evil loop. You guys are getting a massive amount of omega-6 in your diet, and you're not getting any omega-3s. Your inflammatory system is rocking. You're dying of heart attacks and strokes because your brain chemistry does that. So you guys see how this gets? It gets really wicked fast. You've got to put these in. The study said this. Ideally, you should be 1 to 5. 1 to 10 is bad. Like bad. The researcher said if you're 1 to 10, you're in trouble. 1 to 15, ready? You're doomed. That's what the researchers wrote. They literally wrote, I'll bring the study. You're doomed. You're doomed. Like, thank you for flying. You'll have a heart attack or stroke. The average American, that's 1 to 15. The average American, 1 to 25. 1 to 25. Where I've never not had that test given and have someone not come in over 115. I've never. It's just, if you don't know your score, grab that test and have us do it. You ready? You just fingerprint, put it in, we'll send it to the lab and come back and better have your seatbelt on. Because you're going to look at it and go, oh, whoa. And you've got to be on the omega-3s. Got to be on them all the time because you're not getting them anywhere else. Magnesium is also there. It's important. This is the bundle you'll see. It's really good for cell function. Vitamin C, one of the antioxidants that you need in your body to fight off cell problems and things. That's in there as well. Here's the bundle. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something about this. I'm going to tell you a pet peeve before I flip this over to Dr. Osborne. I don't understand when nutrition companies give you a free sample. Here's a multivitamin. Try it. I don't know what that means. It's like the stupidest thing in the world. I'm going to take one vitamin and that's not how it works, right? I mean, your house is on fire, and the fire department comes in and says, we'd like to offer you 1 bucket of water. Here, we'll give you 1 bucket, please, try it. Try it, and tell me how it goes. Well, it doesn't make sense, right? If you're going to do vitamins, the smartest way to do is you commit to doing them, right? You don't just buy one. You set yourself up. Now, however you want to do it, but I know that Max Living does a really good deal on auto ship. And what they mean by that, if you sign up, they just ship it every month to you. You get 20% off, and they do